I'm here today to talk about mending. Mending is important. It makes your clothes last longer, and then you don't have to spend money to buy more. Sounds good, right? I've had this cashmere sweater since high school. I got it at a Goodwill, I think, in 90s. And I love it. It's traveled with me everywhere, and it's definitely got its holes in it. Over the years, I've mended it here and there. My mom's helped me mend it. A couple years ago, I bought one of those fast mender, the fast quick weave. And I did like a little two-tone quick weave on there. And then I also used a little patch of a sweater here. And then this here, I'm using some black cashmere sweater that I felted in the wash with very hot water to kind of make like a nice fun little patch. Here's the little robot face. And I'm also trying out putting the patch on the inside, which is what I've done here, where I put the patch under and then kind of emphasize the hole. One year, this was many years ago, probably 10 years ago, I mended it by making leather moths. So I have these little leather moths all over it as a sort of a nod to why there's a hole there. I need to do so much more. So I'm trying out different techniques. I've got this giant kind of little kitty bee hole one I did. And yeah, there's definitely a lot more to go. But now the front is in dire need of some mending. I'm going to show you up close some of the mending techniques and hopefully inspire you to mend your items, your sweaters. I'm trying to mend the whole sweater so there's no holes. And then I'm gonna wash it. And then maybe, I gotta do a little research, and maybe like bake it in the oven on a low temperature so that it just kind of cooks whatever might have been in there. Moths, man, they're such jerks, honestly. I like the big moths, they're beautiful. But the little tiny ones that eat my Uggs and my cashmere are not welcome in this home. It's usually something that I should be doing in November. I think we have like a week left of cold weather here in LA. So that's another reason why I gotta like mend this baby, wash it, and Ziploc bag it for next year. Which is a shame because it feels so soft. It's so soft. But you know, that's the thing, SoCal. It's getting to be hot already. Yeah. Okay, let's show you some stuff. I love this adorable little embroidery hoop that I had hanging around. This cashmere sweater that I felted is so soft and thick. It works great for a patch because it doesn't have the stretch. As you can see, I'm twisting the thread around and around and around to make a nice big knot. And I secured the edge with a running stitch. It's a pretty primitive looking running stitch, but I just wanted to make sure the patch stayed in position while I mended this hole. I'm having a hard time here with how long I made my yarn. I highly recommend using a shorter piece of thread because, as you can see here, it keeps getting wrapped up on itself, and every stitch I have to loosen up the knot so that I can pull it all the way through. And I really have no experience with hand sewing. I just figured if it looks kind of primitive and like a little Victorian orphan, sure, why not? I mean, it's just mending, right? And this is, I think, about the time I figured I wanted to make a robot face. So here I am kind of making these lines for teeth. And this, I don't even know what this stitch is called. I just basically make a loop and then pass it through a loop, but it's not a blanket stitch, I don't think. I don't know, you tell me. Now, once I got all the way to the edge, I figured I needed like a nice line across, almost like a little skeleton mouth where you have the line through the teeth. I had no idea how to do it, but I figured I'd just do a couple stitches so that it wouldn't be a loop that got caught on things. And after this, I start the eyes, which are really just a square, like a little box of stitches. I think that's the fun thing about doing this type of mending is it's really just drawing with your thread and having a, fun figuring out what to do. So once I'm done with the eye, I pull the thread all the way through, and then with my needle, I move that tail closer to the beginning tail, I guess that's what it's called. And then I knotted those together so I could really make sure it did not come undone. The next one I'm showing you is putting the wool on the back side. I'm hoping it up. I cut out just a little circle that is going to be wider than the space because you want to make sure you have enough to grab onto. I'm going to start sewing, binding the edges to the felt. With the other ones on the sweater, I did a blanket stitch, but as I tried to frame this video for the camera, I realized I was not doing a blanket stitch anymore. I was just going in a circle just to secure the edge so that it doesn't continue to stretch and pull and unravel. Now, a blanket stitch has a real clean, pretty look to it. After I went around once, I decided I would stitch it all in a circle just to kind of keep it sturdy and then do another pass going around and around just to fill out the pink. And it's kind of fun. I think at the end, it ends up looking sort of like a little microorganism, which I think that's cute. Here we are. Let's just tie off those ends. And I trimmed down the felt when I was done, just so I wouldn't have big pieces that weren't part of the patch. There you are. I think it looks good. This next one here, I'm using the speedweave, and I had a little trouble getting it on there because this is where the sleeve is stitched together, so it's not just one direction of knitting. And my elastic broke a long time ago. They don't last very long, so I use a string to make sure it's sturdy. First thing we're going to do is create our warp, which is those threads that go up and down. That's your warp. The weft is back and forth, right? The horizontal one is the weft. So the warp, you go up and down, stitching into the sweater at the bottom and then looping over the top. And you're going to do this a little wider than your hole so that it has some grip, if you will. So you'll make sure it really stays. All right, this is my last stitch. And of course, again, these tines can be real sticky. For the weft, I chose a burgundy. I thought it would be a nice chromatic complement to the red. And with this one, you put a stitch on either end to keep it secure. And I just go back and forth, securing, keeping an eye on tension. Tension is very important. If you start pulling too much, it gets wobbly and tight, and it'll end up looking not great. I know this because I've done it. After about halfway through this, I found that it was much easier to use the back side of my needle because it wouldn't catch on the fibers the way that the point of the needle does. So here we are, we're almost at the top now, keeping an eye on that tension. You can see it does start to pull in, and the last couple rows can be really difficult. You got to take your time on those. So now you remove it off of the tines now that you're done. After we pop it off these hooks, we secure the top. We're gonna pull all of our threads in to the back side of the sweater. And then run that thread to the other side. And we're pulling the red threads through as well. And then what we're gonna do is make sure all the threads are close to each other so that we can tie them into knots. And there you have it. Well, thank you for joining me today. This has been fun. This has been real. And I hope it maybe educates and inspires you to mend your own clothing in sort of a anti-capitalism, anti-consumerism, punk rock show of protest. That was a mouthful, but we did it. Yeah, mend your sweaters and stick it to consumerism. Have a lovely day.